Yeah, so for a long time I have been, I'll tell you why the tense is interesting in a minute, a trainer for Arts Award, and also one of their sort of support consultants, which is a fairly grand term really, for someone who just kind of comes and helps out. Um, but since the pandemic, it's all shifted a bit, as everything has. So training has kind of gone all online. So they need a much smaller pool of kind of trainers. Um, and so for a long time I was arts education person, so kind of worked with education sector, arts sector, and tried to help each other see the benefit of working with the other. But as of Monday, I'm actually returning to the classroom. So I'm sort of relinquishing my Arts Award trainer role. I mean, I will still obviously be involved, and TMC have said they're quite keen to kind of maintain kind of links, just because you're kind of in it and you're doing things. But no, so I think the pandemic raised in me a need to be doing something that I thought was genuinely quite useful and important. So we'll see whether it works out. But I am, yeah, starting a new school on Monday, so we'll see. But yeah, so this was initially set up as a kind of, as I'm sure it kind of came to you, as a bit of a reminder, really, as a refresher about Arts Award. But I think, given what we've got today, we can, thank you, we can kind of make it whatever we want. So I was thinking we start at the beginning, and I just talk, do a bit of a whistle-stop tour of what Arts Award is. A lot of which you will remember from training and various things, Dina, but just in terms of, just to give it a context, and to mention those things about the breadth of it and the scope of it. And then if anybody has any questions, we can kind of deal with those. And then we could maybe look at the different levels and the types of things that you might need to do. I've got kind of toolkits in front of me, so I might be able to kind of share those and various things. And then I think we just kind of take it from there. You and I might have some sort of housekeeping. I know we've emailed about sort of details and addresses and login, things like that. So it might be that at the end we kind of just do some of the nuts and bolts stuff that we need to make sure. But at the beginning, let's just talk about Arts Award and why, really, if that's good for anyone. It's very informal. So those of you sitting in your grand, wonderful boardroom, if you do have any questions, do just yell or whatever, or we can kind of do it. Make sure you kind of get what I'm talking about. And if you have got a question, just stop me, and we can kind of deal with it at that point. So remember, this session's really for you, so we can kind of make it as useful and as in whatever direction you need it to be. Is that okay?
Awesome.
I will kick off then. So some of this is kind of almost like the official stuff of Arts Award, but we can kind of make it more personalised to you as we kind of go through. But anyway, so Arts Award was launched in 2005, and it was the first award of its kind that recognised kind of young people's development, your development in the arts. There were various other things. There was Duke of Edinburgh, but there was nothing at that point that recognised development in the sort of the creative arts, and it is incredibly the broadest range of young people can be involved, and any setting can kind of be involved, and it's about the development of young person's skills rather than attaining a specific level. So if we take the kind of music grades, it's not about, if you're grade 1 you're at this level, and if you're grade 8 you can do that. The idea is that if you're doing an Arts Award, it's about where you start and where you end up and what you learn on the way. So it's about what you learn. So it's very, very individual. And throughout all of the Arts Award levels, which I'll talk about in a second, it kind of looks at developing two things. It looks at developing you as the artist, and I'll talk about that in a minute, how broad that is, but it's about developing you. And it's also about developing you as an arts leader. Which is exactly what you were talking about, Dina, in terms of something you can do, but then it's something that you can then go on and work with other young people to kind of deliver. So really, it's about celebrating what young people can do. And there's lots of other benefits that you can imagine. If you kind of look on the website, it's kind of good for formal sector because it can increase sort of attendance. It's kind of good for lots of things in schools, but equally it's good for for non-formal because it's so flexible and can kind of fit into any things. So do you know what one of the things I really like about Arts Award is that it's really fab for those at one end who are high achieving. It's really good for those who might be struggling with certain things. But the bit that I really like is that most young people are in the middle and they don't have a particular title. And they are just those in the middle, working hard, doing their thing. And I think it kind of helps each of those groups of people shine, really. And that's what I kind of like about it. Because it is about that individual level rather than that kind of skill level. Okay, so the way it's kind of run, it's obviously sort of all managed from London, but Dina's referred to the Mighty Creatives, who are the sort of the local Arts Award group organisation. So this is kind of through them, and if you have any questions later on, as you will have done, they're kind of, you know, a useful kind of organisation to be involved with. Okay, so there are 5 levels of Arts Award. There's Discover, Explore, then Bronze, Silver and Gold. Discover is a certificate level, so it's not an official qualification, but it is certificated by Trinity. The other 4, Explore, Bronze, Silver and Gold, are official qualifications, as in you find them on I think it's the Regulated Qualification Framework, which is all a bit of an acronym, but they will sit on the chart alongside all other kind of exams as well, which is, sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not, but it's worth knowing that it is a proper qualification. In the beginning, there was just bronze, silver and gold. And what they realised was there was and generally it was people who were like 11 plus who were doing it. And what they realised was there was a real gap. Lots of young people wanted to be doing their Arts Award. And so they set about developing the 2 new levels of Discover and Explore. And they started off by calling it Junior Arts Award, but quickly realised that loads of young people wanted to do that. It wasn't about age, it was just about what time you have, what you wanted to do. So they quickly got rid of that. So it's very much, the suite now is 5 kind of levels of Arts Award that you can do. Okay, and we'll have a little look about what each of those entails as we go on. But in each of them, it's about developing yourself as that artist and developing your leadership skills, which start off tiny at Discover and then go right up to running your own event at Gold. So you can kind of see the progression going all the way through. So in terms of the terms and in terms of how it works, young people work with an advisor. So Dina at the moment is the advisor. So she can officially take people through their Arts Award. If you guys in your wonderful room were to become trained up, then you'd become advisors as well. But certainly it's something that you could do. You could actually do your Arts Award, and then when you get to a certain point, it may be that you want to kind of train as well. So you would be training to be an advisor to work with young people. Just out of interest, how old are you all in that room? Because there's like a specification for trainer status.
I'm 18. I'm 16. I'm 16.
So it might be 18. I'll have a little look. So that's something just to bear in mind. But by the time you've gone through a couple of Arts Awards, you'll all be kind of there. So it might be 18, but we'll have a little look.
We've got Nicola's in there as well. Nicola, are you 22?
24.
24. Nicola's 24.
That's the other thing worth noting as well. Arts Award is actually for young people aged up to 25. So we need to crack on. But yeah, but we'll have a little look at the age spec just for you, Dina, just so you're aware. Okay, so I all mentioned already about, and we've kind of alluded to it already, about what do we mean by the arts, and it really is the widest sense of what the arts means. So it is your visual art, it's performing art. It's grand to modest. Yes, it's graffiti. Yes, it might be doing something else, but it could be ballet as well. But it's design, it's gaming, it's writing, so literature, design, architecture, and as well as you said, heritage comes in. So museums come in, so curating, just the widest sense that you could possibly imagine. And it's not just for the performers and the singers, it's for those people backstage as well. So if you've kind of got young people who are technically minded, so behind the scenes of things works kind of as well. If you've got people who are brilliant at marketing, arts marketing is absolutely part of that thing we call the arts world, and things wouldn't function unless you had your marketing people, your people doing this, your people doing that, your education officers in theatres and galleries and things. So it's whichever bit of the arts that you are interested in, or heritage, really you can kind of make it fit Arts Award. Does anybody have any questions about that?
No, definitely.
Often in the past we've had questions like, oh, does cake decorating and cooking and things like that, and the thing that you sort of have to ask yourself is, if you are a budding cake decorator, as long as the work that you do is about the decoration and the aesthetic process, as in like what the textures, what the colours, what does it look like, as opposed to how much flour do I need and how hot does it need to be, and things like that. So it's about the creative purpose, and every so often we might have a question about martial arts, and can that be used for your Arts Award, or I love doing Zumba or something. And again, it's about thinking, well, is there a creative purpose? Is this about choreography? Is this about someone seeing what I'm doing? Then yes, it is. But if it's about being fit and healthy, that's brilliant, but it's not a sort of an Arts Award kind of thing. So it really is an incredibly wide sort of scope, really, for the arts. Okay. Does that make sense in terms of what all of your guys' interests are? Because I don't know any of your, obviously you've mentioned heritage. So do we have any budding writers, journalists, architects, yes, gamers or game designers or artists or dancers or any other art forms I haven't mentioned?
Right. I'm a bit of an artist, but mostly write. Like poetry, like my own stories. But yeah. So that would obviously be perfect fit. What about you two that I can see? What, yeah? Yeah, anything. You don't have to, just think in your mind to kind of almost like, yeah, is this a kind of a fit for me? But it really is kind of anything. And if your passion happens to be football, or if it happens to be karate or whatever, there are ways that you can achieve your Arts Award by you can write about football, you can take photographs of football, you can look at almost like sporting journalism, you can make a film about all of those things. So there are lots of ways in. If in a few years down the line you're trying to get other people in, you can kind of pull them in on the thing that they love as well. You just have to be a bit clever. Okay, so one of the things that I think is quite special about Arts Award is the way that you record the journey of what you've done. Basically, it's an evidence-based qualification. So say you were doing this, each young person creates an arts log in which they create their journey. So for Discover and Explore, it's kind of arts log. Bronze, silver and gold, it's a portfolio, but it's basically the same thing. It's a physical physical record, if you like, of your journey in Arts Award. And it can be in any format. So it might be scrapbook, it might be all digital, it might be a mix of both. So within those digital hard copy sort of records, and you can kind of have anything in that as well. So if you think of a hard copy scrapbook, it could be photographs, it could be notes, it could be written work, it could be post-it notes, anything really that has recorded what it is that you're actually doing. Okay. And often it's a combination of photos and notes, or a PowerPoint's been put in or something else. But if you've kind of
But if you want to do it all digitally, that's fine as well. So really the idea behind that is that it kind of plays to the strengths of the young people and the advisor who are doing their arts award. And the idea is that if you've got young people in the room who love writing, that's fine. You can kind of get them to write, you can kind of get, whether it's digital, whether it's hard copy. But if you're dealing with a group of young people who, you know, if you say to them, we've done this wonderful thing, now write about it, and you know that would be just about the worst thing you could say to them in terms of taking the project forward, is don't record it in another way, take photographs, take short film, get other people in to do that. At no point do you ever have to make someone do something that they don't want to do, because we all know there are some people, it would just kill the project if you said, now write about the thing you've just seen. And no, that's not the point. But as you're going forward, you need to think about how you are going to evidence, because when you get to moderation, which we can talk about later on, you need the moderator who sees your work, it needs to do what you have done justice. More every so often you'll kind of see somebody, you'll speak to an advisor, they tell you we've done this, we've done that, we've done something else, and you're really excited to see what the portfolios look like, and you get there and you're really sort of, oh wow, I can't wait and see it, and you open them and you just think, oh, I haven't really got anything there, or there's like a sheet of paper and they're like, oh no, but we did it and it was great, and it's like, no, but it is, the evidence for what you've done has got to be in your portfolio or your logbook. So it's about thinking about how you record and how you record what you do. Okay. So I don't want to be too heavy on that at the moment, but that's just something, it's quite a unique thing to Arts Award, and if you kind of plan it and play it, it kind of works to your strengths if you can kind of do it. So last year, that coincided with the sort of the shift to online training. They every so often, you know, they update the toolkit every so often. So there are now 3 new toolkits that were later, I think they're sort of 5th and 6th editions and things that were 2020, and they are now all online. So it's for the first time they've gone for digital portfolio. So it's the plastic has gone, the ring binders have gone, and it's now, you can download it. You can actually buy it in the shop, but you can download them, and if you want, I don't mind sending them to you. Obviously, in order to be able to access that, you need to be have an advisor with your login, but I've got them open in front of me, and I can certainly point you in the right direction. Hurrah! So this is the first one. This is Discover and Explore. So this is kind of this is what you would be given at training, and this is what you will now, this will look familiar to you, kind of, Dina. So there's lots of info at the front of it, as there is throughout the whole Arts Award website. But if we look at, you'll see for Discover there are 3 parts, A, B and C, but I'm going to whiz through that, and we are going to look at Explore. Okay, so this is the second one. This is a proper qualification. So there are 4 parts to do this, whether you're doing it or whether you're guiding other young people to do it. And the first thing that they need to do for part A is take part in 2 arts activities to extend their experience and understanding of the arts. That's it. They have to do 2 things, 2 arts activities, which might be workshops, it might be sessions, but they need to be 2 separate ones. So that might be 2 things within one genre, or it might be dance and it might be photography or whatever, but it's about doing 2 kind of things. So I can feel myself wanting to talk more, but that's basically it. For part B, young people have to do 2 simple research projects. So it's about finding out about the work of an artist and about finding out about the work of an arts organisation. Okay, and again, that's at the discretion and the choice of the young people who you are working with. Okay, just to note, at Discover, you just have to do research about an artist. So that's the shift up from here. It's an arts organisation as well. Okay. And you can see there it's got in that second paragraph, arts organisations can include museums, libraries and other companies that support work in the arts, because they are of course all important. Part C, young people have to create a piece of work. So it's not something that's part of their part A, they just need to decide they need to do something, and we call it the process and the finished piece of work. Whether it's a piece of artwork, whether it's a story, whether it's a poem, whether it's a photograph, whether it's design for a building or anything. Okay. And then part D, they have to identify what they've enjoyed and share what they've enjoyed with others. So you could all do that in that room, I suspect. Not quite, I won't say with your eyes shut, but you really would be able to do all of those things. Okay. And as you'll see, the leadership element of this is small. It's just about sharing what you've kind of done with somebody else. Okay. So I'm going to stop that share there. So basically, so for Discover, it's £4. Then it jumps at Explore to £13.75. Bronze is £24.50. Silver is £30 and gold is £45. 4 elements. I'm going to try to share again. There are 4 elements in bronze, and you'll see that how they are fairly linked to what we've just looked at in Explore. So it's always the same format. So bear with me as I kind of whiz through all the information that is there for you to read and look at. Okay, so for part A, explore the arts as a participant. It's about doing arts stuff in that the broadest sense, but it's about developing the interest, knowledge and skills, which you can't not do if you're doing sessions or workshops or whatever. So that's part A. Part B is going to see something, so being an audience member. So whether it's an exhibition, whether it's a show, whether it's a concert, that's all fine, and it doesn't have to be anything grand. A battle of the bands at the local youth club is just as valid as going to somewhere in London to see a big theatre show or something. But fashion shows, festivals, all of those count as about being that audience member. And then it's things like this where you think about what's the best way to kind of capture that. So some people will write about what they've done because you'd need to do a personal reflection, and then you have to share your reflection with at least one other person. But do you capture that as a written piece? Do you capture that on film or on your phone or whatever? So there's lots of different ways of kind of capturing that. It's not just about having to write a review. So there are different ways. But I'd imagine you probably all do go and do things as audience members. Possibly in the last 18 months it's been more digital. But I bet you do. Okay, so part C is a small research project into somebody who inspires you. So an artist, a craftsperson or arts practitioner who inspires you, which obviously is similar to what you will have done, but the expectation is kind of slightly more for bronze. When you get your toolkit, what you'll see as well are there assessment criteria, and that kind of gives you the level that you're kind of looking at, which I'm sure you'll remember from your training, Dina. But again,
it was a long time ago.
Was it? But if you have a look in the toolkit, that will kind of, the assessment criteria is there. But for this bit, really, it's about somebody who inspires you. So like you said, it could be the artists of Colville, but it doesn't have to be. It can be someone dead, someone alive, someone you know, someone in your family, someone you've always loved who does this record or whatever. So
I've just got a question. It's just come to mind. If you're doing like a joint project, so for instance, I'm just thinking now we have got a project that's coming up that involves art as well as what they're doing at a festival. But we've got a street art project and an exhibition project in Colville, and I'm just thinking if they're all involved in it, can they still, reflect in their own way, visit and get involved? Use the same thing to get the same accreditation effectively.
Yes, and it might be you hold that thought when we look at silver and we work out what level you want to, because you don't have to start at the bottom and work through all 5. You can kind of enter at whatever level that you want to. But yeah, it's very authentic to work on an arts project as a group, as a team, because that's how we all do it. So yes, it's fine. The only thing that you just have to make sure is that each young person has their own portfolio and they have their own kind of responses to that. And therefore each portfolio may well look different. But if they're all doing a workshop or a session, then it's likely that the photos may look similar, or what they put in their logbooks or portfolios may well be similar, because they're all doing the same session, as long as it's their kind of the young person's kind of response. So they all saw the same thing, which often will happen. It's just their personal response, if that makes sense. Okay, so for bronze, parts A, B, and C, doing something, seeing something, and finding out. That's all about developing you young people as an artist. Part D is where the bit about being an arts leader just becomes just a bit more kind of obvious, I suppose. So part D is about passing on your art skills to other people. So there are 2 ways of doing it, and you lead a short workshop, or you do a presentation that includes an explanation of your art skills. So again, you plan it, you do it, and you kind of review it. Nothing that would faze you or surprise you there. The thing you have to be careful of with part D is that if you, say for example, you're a singer and you just love to sing, and you're just like, oh, I'm going to do a presentation, and you just want to sing, that's fine if you want that person just to sing. But then what they would need to do in order for it to be a part D skills share is that that young person will need to talk about how they learned that song, how they warm up their voice, and the exercises and things that they do. So it's about passing their skills on rather than doing a performance, because if it's a performance, that's part A, that's being an artist. Does that make sense? That's just a really tiny bit from training that I would normally spend much longer on, but you can kind of see this is just where young people start to be more a kind of a leader. Any questions? So hold that in your head, and I'm going to whiz up to silver, because so bronze and silver are in the same toolkit. But when I'm doing training, when I've done training in the past, the thing that always just strikes me every time I ever do it and open the silver up, it's just there is so much more writing to silver. It is just so much denser. So if you look at, just looking, no, it's all right. I was looking for a contents page. It's not there. So remember with bronze, there was 1 unit, there were 4 parts. Now at silver, you've got unit 1, which is about developing you as an artist, and then unit 2, which is about your leadership. So the leadership at silver has equal weighting as about developing you as an artist, becomes much more significant. Okay.
Can I ask what's the difference between bronze and silver in terms of the level of qualification? Because when I did the training, there was the sort of recommendation was bronze and then just do gold, because silver's kind of a bit of an offshoot, or I can't quite remember the reasons.
I've never heard that, but in terms of, I think, well, it depends what you and your young people in your room are kind of looking to kind of get from it, because what you would take from silver is, I think, is quite significant. Because it is so much of a step up. If you're looking for UCAS points, fine, go gold, because that's the only one that has UCAS points. But when we have a look at silver, in terms of what it's, in terms of the stuff that you have to do, it would give you an enormous amount, both in terms of what you could talk to a school about if you were going to work there, if you spoke to an employer, or if you had an interview, or if you had to write a personal statement. You'll see as we go through, it gives you an awful lot that you can, an extra 5 minutes and an extra paragraph is almost how I see it. It's quite involved, silver. And in terms of its qualification, silver is a young person who gets their silver is working at a high level GCSE. It's not the same as getting another GCSE because it's not as broad as a GCSE. I sort of remember in the beginning, people would get silver and it's like, oh, I've got another GCSE. It's like, no, you haven't. But it's working at the same level. So it's the same sophistication as a high level GCSE. But let's go through and we'll kind of see. And I promise you, I'm not going to read all this because it's pretty dense. So basically, for units 1, part A and part B, part A, is you need to do an arts challenge. And so you basically identify your strengths and weaknesses as an artist, and you work with your advisor and you set yourself a kind of a challenge. It's either something that you want to do better and you need to be able to work to get better, or it's about doing something different that you can't yet do, and then you need to learn things to actually do it. So this isn't something that you can do in an afternoon. It's not just like a workshop. It's not like or anything. This is it's more in depth in terms of where I am and where I kind of want to get to. So you would kind of need, as well as your strengths and weaknesses, you need to know what the challenge is, you need to know why you've chosen it, what your action plan is. So it's almost like it's much more involved in terms of how you get from A to B at Silver. Okay. So part A is all about the kind of the planning, the action plan that you have to do. Part B is the doing of the action plan, if that makes sense. So it's noting what you've got to do, and then it's you doing it for part B. Okay. So obviously you would kind of read through this, but it's much more involved and more in depth. And it's something that you might do, I would say, over once a week for a couple of months or something. Okay. So part C is reviewing arts events, which is very similar to what you would have done in all the preceding kind of arts award levels. So it's about seeing things, and it's about having that kind of critical sort of response to the thing that you're kind of seeing. So nothing out of the ordinary there. And for Unit 1 Part D, which is a kind of like a new bit of research, is that it's about equipping the young people with the information to kind of go forward into the world of the arts, whether they want to do it as a job or whether they want to do it as just a hobby that continues through their life. And given all of you in your room, it might be that this is exactly the sorts of things that you're thinking about. It's like, how can I take my interest forward? You mentioned you like writing. Well, is this something I want to do professionally? In which case, I need to be thinking of all those things, college courses. And it's not about you having to do them, it's about finding out what's out there. And if you don't want to do writing professionally, but how could I continue to do that? Are there kind of groups? Is there a writing group? Is there a book group? Is there something else locally? What about in the county and things? So it's kind of finding out about opportunities out there in your chosen art form. So it's not about doing them, but it's seeing what is out there. And I often think, when you're at a festival or something, which obviously you will, and you've kind of got your brochure, and you open up the brochure and you see all the names of all the people who've been involved in it, and suddenly it's like you saying about the Colville artists, suddenly it's like just working out what is on our doorstep and the richness of it. And then if you go then beyond that and how much, it's just saying, well, actually, until you know what's there, you don't know what opportunities almost you can kind of do. So all of that is about developing you as an artist. Okay, so that's Unit 1. Unit 2 is all about leadership. And you start off by thinking about what the skills of a good leader. So it's about being organised, being able to inspire people, being able to take ideas on board, all of those things that you'd probably talk about in a session, all of you. And then you decide what your leadership project is going to be. And they're all things that you would kind of need there. So what are the aims of the leadership project? What's your role going to be if you're working as a team, which you could well be working in a team and doing a leadership project? What's your role? How does that relate to other people? and part B is more kind of planning, if you like. So it's the who, the how, the why, the what, all those things that you would be doing if you were planning a kind of leadership project. Okay, does that make sense? So A and B are planning your leadership project. C and D are the kind of doing, if you like. So it's about how you're effectively being a good leader and about how you're effectively working with others. Nearer the time, if you start to do this, you can talk to other people at Arts Ward or me or whoever, and we can talk to you about making sure you've got evidence for both parts C and D, because they really can merge. And then part E is the review of your whole leadership project. So there's lots to kind of read for this one, but it's something that you can really kind of get your teeth stuck into, particularly as you've mentioned festivals, I think. Can you see opportunities where there are things like this for you, where any of you, whether young person or Dina, can you see opportunities where there might be something where you could have some sort of project?
I mean, to be fair, this is what they're already doing. They're planning a creative tent at a event we're hosting every Sunday that we're planning to continue throughout the winter in some form or other. And there's a project that I've not mentioned yet about, like I said, the famous 50 and a street art project that I think would be potentially, we could actually use that as part of this.
Completely.
Yeah.
And we'll hold that thought and we'll have a quick look at gold, and you can work out whether it's more silver or whether it's more gold. And that might be whether it might just be to do with people's time, what we think, first go through Arts Ward, things like that. But just those words that you've uttered says to me, yeah, this will be fine.
What about you guys in the room? Do you feel like it's of what you've started fits this one nicely?
Yeah.
Just all the things that you've said, Dina, just in terms of just the bits you've mentioned, I would say, I'm sure you've got lots of young people who will be able to do things like this. And we just have a quick look at gold, show you gold. So this has a toolkit all of its own. Okay. So the first thing you have to do is about extending your own practice, because of course it's about developing you as an artist. Loads of text to read through before anybody gets started, but essentially what you have to do is you identify an art form that you are experienced in, that this is your thing, and then you identify another art form or genre or practice that you want to get more experience in, and then you basically make a plan about how you can get this new experience working with another practitioner, and then you create a new piece of work that in your main art form that is inspired or influenced by this new kind of thing that you have kind of been investigating, which I just think sounds really fab. And so this will be for people in your, I don't know, you'll know your young people really well, Dina, and sitting in your room, you'll be thinking, all of you young people, they're thinking, oh, I think I'm more this, I think I'm more the other. But for gold is for kind of where you kind of, you've got your art form, you know what you love, sort of thing. So that's that, but you can kind of see this is not again, you couldn't do this in an afternoon. It's quite a thing that you've kind of got to do and be quite passionate about, I think. Part B, it's about career development. So it's about work placements, volunteering, training, workshops, things like that. So it's a slight step up from silver. So there is an expectation to do a placement or some volunteering or something, where there isn't for silver. It's about finding out what's there. Okay, so that's about finding out. Part C is more
going to see things and reviewing, because that's obviously so important in whatever art form. It's going to see more stuff, because the more you see, the more you're kind of inspired. So it's research into arts practitioners, reviews of events, and reflection on how that has kind of impacted your own arts practice, because of course that's how artists work. You pick up inspiration from everywhere, whether you're a performer, whether you're a writer, whatever. You kind of take things from all kind of all over. And then part D, which is a new thing, it's about if there's something in the arts world that you feel really strongly about, it's about investigating and forming and communicating your view about this issue. So I've seen things like about funding for arts, arts in schools. I've seen, is graffiti an art form, things like that. So slightly provocative things that you feel really strongly about. And you might be sitting in that room thinking, oh, that's me, I feel really strongly about that. Or Dina might know what each of you feels really strongly about. And then you kind of find out, do a bit of exploring, what are the views on this side, what are the views on this side, and you kind of think about, has that impacted on what you think, and so on. So it's about an issue in the arts world. So all that is about developing you as an artist. And then you'll not be surprised to know that Unit 2 is all about doing a big arts leadership project, and all 5 sections are linked. And as it's got here, that for this project, the young people will be working mainly independently with background support from the advisor. Okay, and it notes that you're probably working as part of a team, but it's about each of you taking responsibility for a specific leadership area in that bigger project. And it does, for this one, give you, like for Silver, but these are just some projects that would be absolutely perfect for this project. It says there, projects might involve a workshop series, a one-off day-long event, a performance, an exhibition, the development of a product, a publication, an arts-based website. Okay, so they're just some of the things that you could be doing. The thing to note is, if you decide that you are going to put on a festival, if you happen to be performing in that festival, brilliant. But the bit that Unit 2 is looking at is how well you lead it, you organise it, rather than your artistic bit. That's in Part A. That's about you being an artist. Or in Unit 1, sorry, it's about being an artist. So it's about how do you get people there, how are you going to market it, when's it going to happen, how do you book it, how do you actually book people to come and do things. So it's all the kind of the nitty-gritty stuff, and you'll see. So Part A is the project aims and outcomes, so you're not actually doing it, you're still kind of planning. Part B again is about organising your the who, the how, the what, the where, the risk assessments, things like that need to kind of happen. Part C is you're kind of doing it, if you like, you're managing the project. And actually, I'll mention something else here as well. If you decide you're kind of doing a silver or a gold, the thing that's really important to keep in terms of that evidence is evidence of all of those conversations you have, those meetings, those scraps of paper that you have all your information on, the hard copy folder that you'll probably be walking around or have in your bag for that folder, or equally the digital folder that on your computer, where every email you've put in, all those conversations, all your names and numbers and things. Keep all of that, because that's your evidence of your doing as much as the bit you're kind of going to add in extra. And I've seen projects that are just brilliant, but the young people have found it really hard to evidence they're managing the project because they didn't have that stuff, if that makes sense. All of those bits of things that you just daren't throw away until the project is gone, and then you probably still daren't quite throw them away because they might be useful for another time. So keep all of those bits, because that's authentic. It's what you do. Okay. Part D, this is the bit that's different to Silver, it's all different, but this is the bit that doesn't occur in Silver at all, is that you need to manage a public showing. So it's not enough that you do it in-house, there has to be some sort of element of public showing.
for this, which you might be having anyway, given the things you're talking about. And then, unsurprisingly, part E is your evaluation, your reflection of all the things you've done. I'll stop the share there. So it's working out where you're at, silver or gold. And whichever you do, you would take lots and lots from it, I think.
Brilliant. It so fits. It's trying to think about, you do the project and all those things you would actually be doing anyway. We've been talking through things like that and doing reflections on what we've done and improving the plans and things like that. It's just making them fit. But if we got into the habit of doing it, then you're going to get a qualification out of it.
Yeah.
So it's worth the effort of
I think
taking time to understand.
I think whenever you go through, obviously you've done a bronze, but bronze is very different, I think, to silver and gold. When you go through it the first time, like anything, it just takes a wee bit longer. It's not second nature, but the second time you go through it, it will be. It's looking at the toolkit and just mapping what you will do anyway, what actually is your project and which bit completely fit in, and is there anything extra that you then need to do in order to make it fit. And I don't mean that it's not about twisting it to fit Arts Award, but it's about making sure all those elements are done that kind of create, the whole kind of award.
Cool.
So yeah. So I'm aware I've just talked at you and just whizzed through. And obviously we didn't look at the first one, but I think the next step is just to have a little look at the new toolkits, and just map it across what you're doing anyway, and think about how you record and how you evidence each of the sections. Because that's the thing that can be sometimes, particularly when you're in a project and you'll all be really brilliant doing your project, and it's about making sure that you have enough stuff. Each of you has your own kind of evidence in your folder, whatever format it's in.
There's no way you can be collecting evidence for each other, because it's so hard to collect evidence for your bit sometimes. But if your responsibility is doing your bit but collecting the evidence for somebody else's bit, that could
and you know
be
what?
a bit of
it's really useful you guys being here as well, because it's about knowing that the bits of work that you do need evidence as well. Often I've seen advisors do it and almost haven't had a discussion with the young people. It's like, no, you all need to be in the same boat, if you like, and know that this needs to be collected and stuff. Because the thing is, ultimately, because it's a qualification, because it's externally moderated, the moderators have to have something to moderate. So it's about doing your fabulous project justice, and so that when they sit down and look at it, whether it's on screen or in a book, you just think, oh yes, look at what we've done, and you can feel really proud about what you've achieved.
It is a way of trying to fit it into the system that we've got, which we might not all agree with, but at least this is an arts friendly way of doing stuff without it being...
and there's no time limit as well. It's very flexible, so it's not about a deadline. The deadlines will be your deadlines for when you've got to do stuff. So
how many schools are using it now? Because I'm just wondering, in terms of these guys, they've got time to be able to get involved and think about all of those things, work through them all themselves if they wanted to. They've got the opportunity to do all of them and get the qualifications, whichever ones they want, and then think about if they wanted to be an advisor, what advantage would that give them in the workplace?
Well, it's certainly something that you can offer. I mean, I think that I don't know exactly the percentage of schools using it. I can imagine the percentage of schools who would love it if someone offered them, I'm an advisor, and would you be interested in me delivering an after-school club in? I can imagine they'd, absolutely bite your hand off. And also, if you've kind of got festivals you've mentioned that, but there's nothing to say when you're doing your leadership project at Silver, saying, phoning up whichever school you're in, saying, can I come and, this is who I am, this is who I'm working with, I'm doing my arts award, would you be up for me doing a half term's worth of sessions in this school? I'm going to be doing singing, or I'm going to be doing poetry, or I'm going to be doing collage, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a fab way to kind of get yourself known, and that's just doing the award, not afterwards.
Yeah, very exciting. Any questions? Is there any questions from the room or comments?
No, I don't think so. It's all very exciting, isn't it?
Does it fit with what you wanted? Sorry.
Yeah.
Good. So I'm thinking, a few ideas that we've had in Colville are things like, there's loads of green, horrible BT things just blobbing around town. Well, why can't they be decorated? There's such history in Colville, like Palitoy. Imagine if every one of those green horrible boxes had a different Palitoy, and there was a Palitoy trail around town, and each of those could have been designed by different young people or artists. We've got street art murals. We know the town are interested in developing those. We've just got permission for an extremely large one opposite our building.
You've got so much scope.
We have, I know. We've got the opportunity to meet the public every Sunday at the events that we're already organising, plus any other event you want to do, you've got the space and time to do it. There's so much.
It is, and sometimes when you've got so much scope, it's kind of hard, isn't it? In terms of what you want, and it's like
We've got Century Theatre up the road. They're happy to host things, and they've got a big studio space. So there's a few things in the pipeline, including building Colville out of cardboard. So, fun palaces. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Cool. So this is, as you can see, it's happening in 43 days. It's called Tiny Revolutions of Creativity. So it gets people doing stuff that they enjoy, whatever it is, and bringing them together.